They make you clear off your stuff too. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the project. So let me open the file and kind of run through it real quick so that way you know what to do when you work on it. It shouldn't take you very long. Okay, let's capture the screen so I don't forget. Okay, so the project is you are gonna pretend shop for components and things to build a computer. It's really designed for you to review the stuff that we learned in the last few days. And it's always fun to think about like, oh, if I want to build a computer, where do I start? There is pick a part, right? Pick PC part or whatnot, or you can just simply use Google Shopping, Amazon, whatever your choice of website to look for these things, right? Best Buy. Okay. So if I wanted to buy PC parts, I can just go PC part picker, right? You can also go, and this website, it's also intuitively help you. So it recommends the parts for you, right? So you can use PC part picker, or you can just simply use Amazon or whichever website that you typically buy technology from. Okay. Okay. So in the project, it asks you to basically go to the internet and you are going to find a processor of your choice. Okay. I don't have a limit to but it needs to have an integrated graphic. Most newer modern processor now, right, have integrated GPU. So let's say that I'm in a market to buy a processor, right? You can go to one of the website or you can just go to Google. Let's say I want to buy an Intel processor. Just search for that. You can go to Intel website and it will tell you these are the processor, right? Um, you know, if depending on your price range, and there's a brief description for this. So if I want to buy a processor for my laptop, I click this one, right? If I want for desktop, I click this one. It tells you that here. If I want it for like servers, I pick this one. So most of us will be picking one of these, right? And you can pick whichever one you want. There's no right or wrong answer. If you want the server one, sure, right? The whole point is for you to look into these type of processor, what it has. So, but your goal to also find one that has integrated graphics, right? Integrated GPU. Okay. So let's say that I pick one for my desktop and then it takes you to possibly a list of them. Okay. The speed is the maximum bench. That means that it's like, you know how they sell cars and they tell you this car can go up to 120 miles per hour. Will you ever drive 120 miles per hour? Probably not. Some of you might game and crank it up at 4.8. 4.8 is fairly fast. Okay. Um, Now some of your system might be there already if you have a nice system. But so if you find one, so let's say I picked this first one because I'm lazy, right? I typically do that. It tells you that there's 4 core. Remember we talked about the children sharing the chore, right? There's 6 kids that's doing washing the dishes. And then that means that there's 2 of them doing it at the same time at at some point, right? And so they tell you the number of cores. Will many cores matter? If you do a lot of heavy lifting, like a lot of gaming, yeah, I mean, the number of cores might count. But don't discount the ones that have less core than the other, right? What you want is you have to consider, the top speed. So the efficient speed is actually a lot lower. So most people use stuff in idle mode almost, right? Like if I'm just checking email, surfing on the internet, shopping online, it's typically is running slower than 4.8. So go down the specification, right? It talks about power. Remember we talked about that yesterday? The wattage. There's some AI features. Um, so here, look. integrated GPU. We needed that, right? And it tells you that it has graphics, and the graphics runs at 2.6 gigahertz, which is, half of what you typically have in the regular processor speed. So that means that it has a subprocessor for graphics inside the processor. Does that make sense? Okay. So your choice of Intel. Now, if you're an AMD person, right? You can just Google it, go to AMD processor, and you can go to AMD website. But, you can also ask for AI. You can go to shopping mode. So, AMD also lists, you're going to see similar things, right? Their products and their features. So you can check out some of the tools. I think they might be in.
It wants you to click the cookies. I just went out like shit.
Fine.
It didn't work until I did it.
Yeah, I know sometimes, but I don't think their menus is down here.
You were shop.
Yeah, I think they show products right here. So they sell to vendors. So you can look through different tabs right here. You can go shop, or you can go discover AI PC, where you can just look for the PC with that, right? Okay. But I think maybe their website is not. So Red Space Technology. I'm trying to find the easiest way for you to find their things. So if you get to shop over here, and then you can select Ryzen processor. So it's just like the model, basically. So the current one is the 9 is the latest, but you can also go with the Ryzen 7, huge difference in price and also out of stock, right? There's variation of Ryzen 9, right? So you can click it to look at the specification. You can also see this on Amazon or other e-commerce site. So go down and you can look. So, like I said before, the way they built it is a little different. So you can see that like they have more cores typically. Remember, we talked about temporary storage. So the higher this number, the bigger the cache size, and that's probably ideal. You do pay, there's a direct impact with the price. But look at the speed though, right? So if you're looking at the price close to $1,000 and Intel with the AMD, sometimes AMD is a tiny bit faster, or even equivalent. So their base clock is 4.3, where we looked at the Intel one, the base is like 3.8 and the max is at 4.6. So so it talks about that, and then you can see if it has like GPU integrated, right? Graphics capability, you can go, and typically they do. Okay. So you can choose whichever one you want. There's no like price limitation for the first question. So once you have that information, put a little bit of description. You can copy and paste, put the URL there. If you want to include the price, so that way you can go back and look at it later, sure. I'm easy. So the whole point is for you to go and kind of read up on it. Okay. For 2, it says the engineer wants a sound adapter to do some sound capturing, like singing, playing guitar and record, etc., right? And we talked about when we opened up the computer yesterday, we talked about PCI Express. So the sound adapter needs to be plugged to be expanded into the PCIe X16 or the X4. So the little one or the long one, right, on the motherboard. But the limit on this is that he only wants to spend about $300. So you kind of, now probably because of inflation, it might be impossible. So just shop for a sound card, a sound adapter, right, for either this slot or this slot. Okay. And your limit is $300. If you find it, put the URL, put some information there. Easy. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through that. You can search on the like sound adapter, right? PCIe, right? X16. And there you go. But read a little bit more. So there's some that's $2,000. There's some that's, so some stuff is fancy. So if you're looking at sound engineer that works in the studio, likely that they are going to go for the higher end one, right? But if they're just doing like sound recording at home in their home studio for fun, we can go with something that's a little lower. Okay?
Isn't the 16 for graphics?
No, it can be for any expansion card. Sound, Wi-Fi, etc. Right? So if I want to use Creative Labs, which is a very common brand, and I'm cheap, right? But look at the ports though, right? So my next question for this sound engineer is that what other equipment are you plugging into the sound adapter, right? Are you also plugging in a microphone so you can sing to it? What kind of microphone do you have? So there's more that we need. So, sometimes just getting a $75 sound adapter is not good enough. Okay. But maybe we can go for $180 adapter, right? So this one is for the little one, the X4, as you can see. So I want you to be exposed to other expansion card outside of video graphics and potentially understanding expansion bus a little bit better. That's the goal. Okay. So if you find something that you deem that is adequate, put the information there in the URL. Coffee Lake is kind of old. So if somebody have an i9 Intel Coffee Lake and this is the speed, it can boost up to 5 gigs. This is 11th generation. So, and then they have 16 gig of RAM. They have a video adapter and they have a solid state drive and a power supply. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to shop for these. So we have to look for some RAM. We have to look for a graphic card. And we have to look for storage. Just disregard. I think $1,000 for this is impossible now because of AI, storage cost is so much. And you saw the graphic adapter we looked at yesterday. Each one is already 1,000. So just disregard the price point. I'm not going to have a price limit. So if you find some RAM, remember, right? So this processor is an Intel. Potentially, you might want to kind of research a little bit about like the motherboard that would use it and the RAM that goes with it. Is it DDR4? Right? Likely it is. So find the 2 sticks of RAM or 1 stick that's going to be 16 gig. Any brand is okay. And any price point is okay. Don't worry about the $1,000. $1,000 a few years ago, that's possible, but not now. Right? A video adapter. If you want to go high end, like the 5090 NVIDIA, like what we looked at yesterday, sure, why not? And then an SSD, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, 50, 500 gig, whatever you want. So put the URL and information below. That's it for your project. It should take you like less than 30 minutes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Any question?
Not a question, but it's just a joke that our friends make. Like our RAM that we bought a while ago, it's like the best investment because it's like true.
Yeah, if you people ask to buy it, if you have extra RAM, people text me all the time asking if I have 16 gig to spare because they don't want to spend like so much money on it, right? Because sometimes people do work on their computer and they need it. Okay, so that's the project. Once you have the URL and description of all the things that's asked for here, there's only three questions, right? You save their document and you submit it in Canvas. And you can find that in the third module or in the assignments. Okay, project part 1. That's it. So I started doing this class online during COVID, and I have to find ways that they can do these type of projects at home remotely, right? And also labs remotely. So there's no part 2. There was a part 2, but there's no part 2 for you guys. There's gonna be a short quiz, right? And then we're gonna do a lab tomorrow. And it's not in class. You can take it anytime and you have multiple tries. So, if you want to take it here tomorrow, you can. You can take it later. However, okay, so I'll turn that on later today. Okay, let's do the lab. And then, throughout near the end of the lab, I'll take attendance. And if you finish with it early, if you get up and go, I cannot stop you, right? Enjoy your night while there's still daylight. And I'll be here till 8:30. So let me close some files, and so I don't flip back to them. So I modified this lab for this particular class only because originally I had written it for a server OS, but I think it's more realistic for you to kind of learn about Windows 10 and 11. I was testing Windows 11 last night, this morning, and it kept crashing on my virtual machine on my laptop. I think I resolved the problem, but I read through the forum for VirtualBox that it is crashy. So I didn't want to take a chance for you to come in, do the lab and it's not working. Sometimes labs don't work because technology changed, but if I can fix a lot of it, I would. Okay. So in this lab, we are going to learn how to create a virtual machine from scratch. Okay. Now, we are using VirtualBox, right? If you're doing this on your home computer, you need to install VirtualBox with extension pack, and you can go to their website, Oracle website, to download. I put the link on that here. Microsoft stopped releasing Windows 10 ISO. ISO is a file for OS imaging. Now, the current one that they use is Windows 11, which is this, right? And I mentioned to you that I have tested it. So at home, if you want to install Windows 11, you simply do an upgrade from 10, or if you build a computer, you go to this website and you do the download, right? So we talked about different edition. You can get Pro, whatever, all in one. Now, keep in mind that this is an ISO file. ISO file works for virtual machine very well, but if you install it on your computer, you need to unpack it. So there's a tool that you can use, right? You have to download it and use it to unpack. Read the instruction for that. You can watch YouTube video. I don't necessarily use CD or DVD burner. I also use Rufus for it. So Rufus is really good for like changing image formats. So you can install, and there's others, okay? But you can ask AI on which tool is the best, and you can use it that way, okay? But you need to have an ISO file, but in order to boot and install with the USB, you need to unpack it. So for this lab, I am going to use an image that I previously downloaded from Microsoft for Windows 10. And I had put it up on my Google Drive. Okay, so for the first step, you're going to press Control and you're going to click this link. And it's going to take you to my Google Drive and you're going to click Download. Okay. So again, the first step of our lab, we're doing lab 3 or day 3 lab. You're going to press the Control key, and while you're holding it down, click the link that I embedded here. Click it, and it's going to open it up to this page, and you're going to click download. It looks like a virus, but it's not. So I'm going to do that, click download, and then click download anyway. Then you should do save as or save. So click save. So it's going to save it into downloads. Do not try to open it because you cannot read an ISO file. So save your ISO file to your downloads folder. Okay. So again, press Control. While you press, click this link, download your ISO file and save it. And that should take like a minute. Then after you download, you are going to open up your VirtualBox app. So I try to be very clear with each step so that way you're not like, what do I do here, right? So if you get stuck, still ask me or call me. So we're going to search for VirtualBox or just type virtual in the search bar and click Oracle VirtualBox. They already installed this app on the school computer, okay? So if you download and install, this is what it looks like. This is a hypervisor. It's used to run virtual machine, okay? Hypervisor type 2. Okay, once you have the app running, what you're gonna do is at the top, we are gonna make a virtual machine. So think of it like a CD or a DVD player, right? You can play a virtual machine if it exists. Let's say that we don't have it. Now we're going to make the CD or the DVD, right? We're going to make the actual image for our system. So we're going to click New, and this is going to pop up. Okay. I was trying to screenshot things earlier, and I took it away because I keep changing my instructions. Okay. So as you do step 2, open up the app. And then on the app, right, click New, which is the blue star here, and this pops up. You can name your virtual machine anything you want, right? But for the lab, we're just going to universally use the same name. So I'm just going to we're going to call it CIS-824A Windows 10 VM. I typically put the version and the edition so that way I'm not confused because I use many virtual machines. At home, you can call Win 10 VM, Win 11 VM, whatever you want. CIS-824A, right? Windows 10 VM. Now, by default, it's going to try to put it into my user account folder, but I want to make a folder for it so that way I can move it anywhere I want. That's the goal, right? And you know exactly where it is because if you keep going next, right, you're not going to know where it is. Then you can't play your virtual machine. So it tells you that in the next one, you're going to click the drop-down menu here and you're going to say Other. Okay. And I'm going to put it on my desktop. So I'm going to click Desktop and I'm going to make a new folder there for it. I'm going to call it CIS-824, right? Windows 10 VM. As you can see, I have others on my desktop as well. You don't have to put it on your desktop at home. You can just put it wherever you want. Okay. I highly recommend doing it on your local computer and then move it to the external drive. You can make it directly into the external drive. If you're doing that, you can run it from there. But sometimes it's crashy and other issues come up, right? It's just a software simulation, so it's going to be not perfect. I forgot the A. Okay, so after we name our folder, we're going to select it. That's where we're going to place our virtual machine. So we have a location where our virtual machine is. We have the name. Now we're going to have the ISO that we just download, right? It needs that third component. So we are going to click the next drop-down menu. We're going to click Other. So just follow the steps on that's written. And we're going to go to download. And I have the Windows ISO that I just downloaded here. So again, right after I had created a folder in my desktop, I'm going to then click on the third drop-down menu, click Other, and then navigate to my downloads to find my installation file, which is the ISO, the image file, and then click Open. Okay, right here. So if you follow step 8, you're okay. Now, you don't have to specify the OS here right now, the edition, but sometimes it recommends it for you, right? So if it doesn't have the Pro, because I use a different version of VirtualBox, so it has different recommendation, but you can just keep it like whatever that it recommends there, it's fine. Okay. Now, we are going to check this box because if you don't, you're not going to be able to log in with your own the password that you create. It's going to automate that password to the virtual machine. It's just the way our CCD configured this app to do so. But if you need to do unattended installation, like the note said, you can specify that here. Okay, so skip unattended installation. Now we're going to click hardware. Okay, so I don't have that written for you here, but for step 10, click hardware. And then for the base memory, this is the RAM that you're going to give your virtual machine. So just like on a regular computer, if you have 8 gig, 16 gig, that's what it's going to use, right? Right now, we're kind of installing it through the software, kind of, right? So the memory, I'm going to give it 8,000 megabyte, which gives you 8 gigs, okay? And then for the processor, I'm going to make it 4 core, right? You can up it more, but that's good enough, okay? For this one. And you can change it later too. You don't this is not permanent. You can modify it. Okay. And then for the next part, I need to modify the hard disk, right? So we're going to click on hard disk. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I'd use a different version, different edition of VirtualBox, so it doesn't have these. All right, click hard disk. And then here is where you specify. So the minimum that VirtualBox gives your Windows 10 is 50 gig. Did you know that if you use Windows 11, you need to have at least 100 gig, right? So always give it a little bit extra. So in the instruction, it tells you to do 150 gigabyte. That's like 3 times the amount of the minimum. So you just erase this, backspace it, and type 150. Pay attention to the unit MB, right? You need to put in like 1,000 value, right? So, but this is gigabytes, so it's 150. Can you do more in a regular environment? Sure, we can, if we have more drive, right? So I don't have any other options here. So I'm just going to then click finish. Everybody okay so far? So I'm at step 12. All right. All right. So once we set up our hardware and we have an install file, then you start your virtual machine so it does the install. And you're going to see a window that pops up, right? If you see this little notification, click the blue X, not the big X, because the big X closes your simulation. Click the little baby X, the blue X here, so that way you have more workspace. Okay, so now it's going to boot your install now. So in a regular physical system, you would unpack your ISO onto a USB. It has a boot file, and you would plug it into your computer, and you change your boot priority, and you boot it up. It's gonna look like this. Okay. But now you know how to set up virtual machine install in VirtualBox. Okay. So now now you don't have step 14, okay? If for some reason it cannot find your ISO, then it's gonna prompt you that again. So you don't have to worry about step 14 or 15. Oops. Okay. So once you start your virtual machine, if everything goes smoothly, you should have what I have here. 16 or 17, we don't have to do. Now, once you have, it tells you that based on your system information, you are in United States, right? Then we're just gonna go next and then click install now. I did put it right in step 17, but so you need to do this part. Okay. So once you do that, it's going to tell you, hey, do you have product key? This is when you pay for your license, right? Either you go to the Microsoft website, or you can also buy product key from other distributor. So I'm going to use it for free. So technically you can have this for 90 days. And after 90 days, you can still use it. It just doesn't have security features and other things. So your system becomes vulnerable. So we're going to click, I don't have product key. And this is where you pick your edition, right? So if I don't want all the fancy stuff, I keep it on home. But for this lab, I want you to have the Pro. Not the Pro N. Pro is okay. I mean, not a huge difference, but typically if you use the Pro, they probably have like a little bit, tiny bit different. So select the Windows 10 Pro and then click next. So look at the step in case you get lost. So I'm here at step 20. See, that's pretty fast, right? And then click accept license, go next. All right, I'm going to teach you how to partition your drive when you install. So I'm at step 21. Now we are going to section our drive, right? I already have 150 gig coming into the virtual machine from VirtualBox. We set that earlier in the earlier step. So when you click custom, it's going to give you 150 gig drive. That's what we set earlier. If you set it more, it's going to show more. Okay? But it depends on what you have on the host, which is your real computer. We are going to now we're going to cut the room. Okay? We're going to make the partition. So you're going to click new. And here, you're going to erase the value. I'm going to take 150 and I'm going to create 100 gig for my OS, roughly a little under it's going to do. And then 50 gig for other things like backup data or whatnot. Okay. So we're going to do 100,000. Make sure you count the 0. There should be 50. Because if you put 40, then it's a lot less. 100,000 megabyte. Got that? And then we're going to click apply next to it. And it's going to say, okay, well, I need a little bit of space for other things. Remember what we talked about state? it's going to have, it's going to show you right now, right? It's going to have system reserve, okay, for state. And then, so the leftover space is called unallocated space. And unallocated space just means that space that's not being used for anything yet. It's not slack space. It's kind of like you building a house and now you only have one room. The rest is just empty space. Okay? So it's roughly under 100 gig, as you can see, because it took some for the reserve. That's what that prompt was about. So we're okay with that. We're going to go next. So that's how you do partition at install. Okay? And this is a clean install. But you can size this up and down. The potential crashing, depends. There's possibility that it can crash if you adjust your drive as you use it. But I'll show you disk management stuff as we proceed to the later steps. And you can use that empty space for other things like backup data and so on. I told myself that this summer I have a bunch of SSD that I bought for really cheap. And my laptop, because I didn't want to pay extra for it, it came with a 512 gigabyte. So I'm just gonna like open my laptop and replace it with the 2 terabyte that I bought a while back, because I'm always scrounging for system storage. So like I'm deleting files as soon as, I upload it, for example, your videos and stuff like that, because I use my drive to its max, right? But, you can always upgrade the So if I install a new drive, then I have to install a new OS. So I was thinking of like just adding it as a second drive and then transfer all the data over so I don't have to reinstall all my apps on my OS. So as you install the OS, you have to install the app that goes on top of the OS, right? Like Microsoft Word and other things. But you can use cloud-based stuff too. So here you wait about 10 minutes. Let me pause my video so that way it's just not like Okay, as we mentioned, as you go through the process, right? If it doesn't show your ISO missing, then you can just skip P14 to 16, and then you just wait for it to go. Okay. All right. When you get to the product key, look at the lower part of your window and just say, I don't have the product key. Click that, and then make sure you select the Pro Edition when you get that list, because if you don't, it's going to default to home and you won't be able to do the later steps, right? Then you have to start all over again. Okay, so just before you click next, just make sure you look at the step. Ask me if you need help. Okay, so I am back here. I already did the partitions. Now it's going to take me to the region, right? Which is, I'm at step 27. It verifies that I'm in the United States. I'm going to click yes. Now, a lot of people buy their computer and they're like, oh, I have to put in my email account, which I do also, so that way it can sync your cloud data. But you can also use it offline without your email account. So I'm going to teach you how to do that with this install. So for my keyboard, you know that US keyboard is different than other part of the world. If you're in the UK, the keyboards is different. So we are using US version of the keyboard. You are going to click next, which is your standard keyboard, 102 keys or 101 keys with other things. And then we are going to not have a second keyboard. So remember we talk about KVM, right? Like we have, sharing keyboards, or you might have a gaming keyboard and a regular keyboard or a specialized keyboard. This is when you configure it. So we don't have that. We're going to click skip. So I'm going to skip for step 28. from my second keyboard. And then, so this step right now is it's gonna do the setup, which also takes a little bit of time. But the install, like I mentioned before, the larger the drive that you have for the install, the longer it's gonna take because it has to write the file to that drive. So, if you compare 100 gig to 1 terabyte, definitely exponentially longer. Okay. I don't typically have all the services turned on. You know that you can always reconfigure this later, right? Like AI assistant, syncing the data. I click skip for now because what you want is you want the OS and then you want to configure all your devices to be working. The services stuff you can turn it on later. Okay, so skip for now on the bottom left. And then this is where the difference between the personal use and the organization use is that it's going to customize it for the business purposes, right? The feature, the tools are mostly the same because of the addition. But with the personal use, you're able to have more control of your files compared to the organization that's going to be tied to the service and the domain of the network. So for this one, I'm going to click personal use, and then I'm going to go next. Now, this is where a lot of people put in their outlook.com, their live.com, their Gmail account, and it's going to push your local data to that account, that cloud account. If you only want to use the computer and not syncing it to the cloud, you're going to do an offline account. So click the offline account on the left. And I don't want to sync my data across. So if you have a Surface tablet and multiple PCs, a laptop, then this is probably ideal. But it's a virtual machine that we create. So I'm just going to keep it by itself. So limited experience. All right. Now you're going to make your user account. So for your user account, I have you write down the account name, right? It's just a generic name. But at home, if you type in your first name, that's the user account that you're going to have, right? So we are going to type in CIS-824A, right, student. Go next. And then the password, make sure we use strong password by practice rule. In this lab, I did not apply that policy only because I want to make it easy for you to refer to. But your password should not be a dictionary word. It should be long enough, symbols, character, number, etc.
If you speak a different language, you just use a different.
You know that there's a rainbow table for all languages, Chinese, Spanish, all. Okay, so I just need to grab those lists and then be able to brute force your password. Or use dictionary for your password. All right. So we're gonna do CIS-824A. What was it? Lab 3 or something like that. Yeah, CIS-824 Lab 3. You can add the A to it or not. Did you need help? Okay. Then once you have that, you're gonna confirm your password. Make sure you type the exact password. Otherwise, it's going to give you the hint. So if you want to capture, you can click inside the virtual machine only, right? And then in order to, and it tells you how to get out of it. But yeah, so if you want to click inside the virtual machine, which is what you need to do, right? Yeah, to control it. Yes, actually. Then next. So you should be at that step after. Yeah, so it's going to. You have. Oh, wait, not. I gave you the lab, so are you following the steps? But you're not in the right file. Were we not doing lab 3? So that's not the right file. So open up your USB drive and day 3 lab. Okay, so we need to first install VirtualBox system down. Press Control and at the same time. And we're gonna select Windows, the first option. After that downloads, click on it. This little arrow right here. Right, it has to, the circle has to be complete. Yeah. And then you're gonna install, just use the wizard, go next, and I'll finish. And then, yeah. So once you do that, after you complete, then we can do the first step in the lab. Forgot if I put A or not. Then security questions. If this is your personal computer, you would just make sure that it's really personalized, right? I'm just gonna select the second question and I'm gonna put Moreno Valley, lowercase. You can make it all uppercase. Just make sure you remember how you type it. In my opinion, security questions is not a really good security feature, but it's with Windows 10, so that's what we're gonna use. We're going to go next. And then we are going to select the third question. And we are going to type in the same answer, but should not be in the real world, right? And then also the third question. For the third security question, we're going to select the last question. And we're going to type the answer. So I wrote all of that for you. So as I did that, I completed step 40 already. Right? So when you go through the security questions, if you want another question, that's fine. Just make sure. So it's designed to really help you recover the login if you don't remember the password, right? I use biometrics on my Windows system, so and I sign in with face and fingerprint. But some system doesn't have that capability. So password it's gonna be. All right, so now it's going to ask for syncing. We're not going to sync, so click no. And then we are going to decline AI on the OS right now. If you accept, just know that Copilot or Microsoft AI is going to gather your data and listen. Same thing with installing AI app on your system. That's how it's able to really customize your experience. Sometimes gathering more data than what we want. So I typically don't have those services unless I need it, right? And privacy settings, there's nothing we can do here except for accept. So it's just basically saying that, nothing is completely private.
Do we accept we did the stuff?
Yes. Yeah, just Windows firewall saying, you sure you want to install this? Yeah, go next. You proceed with so accept license next. So the setup here takes a few minutes. So again, right, like if you turn on a lot of services and options, this is gonna take a lot longer. But if you keep it minimal, it's generally a few minutes that it's gonna go through to be able to do that, depending on your processor and so on, right? So after it's done, it's gonna load your desktop, or sometime would let you require that you log in, and then you should be able to use it. So with that, we want to make sure we check the driver for our Ethernet or Wi-Fi, so that way in case we need to download stuff to fix it, we can. So I always want to make sure that I have internet connection after my OS is booted. Yes. So. Oh, because, oh, okay. So, so this one automatically locks you in, but you know you can set that to change. You already downloaded it before, no? No. See? That's I guess you will drive you and something else like that. It's their way. I see that. Give it to you on USB. Actually, you know, just I can drop. I don't. 16. Let me see if I can transfer it through an app. Are you logged in as yourself on your computer? Did you use your account to log in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it doesn't show. Um, yeah, this is yours right here. I see you, right? Kayla, this is yours, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see now if I select. Okay. File transfer. My computer.
The one that says student. You don't think that all your names just use the word student?
I'm sorry?
For the username, you use
Yeah, CIS-824 student.
anything on that one.
Yeah. I mean, in the regular world, you can just name it whatever you want. Okay, so let me see. I'm gonna put it on your desktop and see if that works. It's gonna take about, so instead of in downloads, you're gonna find it on your desktop in a little bit. It's transferring now. Okay, where did we leave off? Okay, so I now have my desktop. Everybody with me? You guys got your OS running? Some of you are still working on that. Now I'm going to show you how to be able to look at your drive like what we talked about today. It automatically logs me in, so I don't necessarily have to log in, right? But so the way that you use your virtual machine, if you need to press Control Alt Delete, you click the input keyboard, and then that's how you use the software to press Control Alt Delete. Because if you press Control Alt Delete on your keyboard, it's really for your host machine, your outside machine, right? Does that make sense? So in the software, you have to do an input. So technically 45 and 46 might not be needed. Okay. So once you're on your desktop, you are going to go into File Explorer. That's the folder on your taskbar right here. If you put your cursor over it, it says File Explorer. Open that up. And then what I need to do next, for the next step, after my desktop is booted, it automatically logs me in. I'm going to make a folder called data on my desktop. So the way that you do this is click desktop, or you can right click anywhere on your desktop. You can right click or click home, new folder. So I'm going to right click new folder. And I'm going to call this data with the capital DATA. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to connect that folder to a drive. So whatever I put in that folder, it puts it in the drive. You see what I mean? They do this a lot for network drives. Okay. Anybody need help? Have any questions? Okay. So as you do that, you are going to proceed. So once you make the folder, then you are going to look at the drive to see how you can connect to that. Yes. Well, because now we only have. Yeah, because we forgot to change it to. So delete, go back to your, so shut your virtual machine down. Just close, put the big X, and then turn it off, then you just need to wipe it again. So go to that folder and then delete all the files within, because that's how to do it better. And then you can start over. There it goes. Sure. So. And it's, so this surface might not. It's limited to resources. Power it up. You know, some sense, but.
That's it. Need help?
I think I'm going through this reading.
Yeah, I just knew some of it, so.
It's really good. I love the step-by-step instruction.
No, she actually, she has really good stuff like that.
Some of the information she has is
Good?
very old.
Yeah.
That's- Yeah, just make sure you log off.
Yeah, I made sure we did all the steps.
And how do you know if we did that? We did the assignment.
Oh, you have the answers in the screenshot and you submit them, right? So I have questions for you to answer and the screenshot for you to so screenshot you can use well, okay, we'll get there. um all right. So I made a folder called data. I left off at step 47. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to disk management. Okay. So coming back to my virtual machine now, make sure you're in the virtual machine, not on the host machine because it looks similar. You're going to click Windows. Okay. And then go to disk management. This is when if you select the Pro, then you would have this. So in this management, I'm going to make a drive, right? So in that drive, I'm gonna then connect the folder to the drive. So first, I need to look at how many drives I have. So under volume, I have a C drive for my operating system, right? This one is the ISO. Remember, that's the download and it mounts it as a DVD on the VirtualBox. And then your system reserve, which is what you saw doing the install. So technically, I have 3 volume. Okay, logical. And it shows you here the file system. We talked about that today, right? And then they're simple, basic. Okay. Now for your C drive, it's always, you can see that it is a boot. So it's an active primary for your OS. That's what you're using. Okay. So we answer these questions. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the property of the C and we are going to use the tools within it. So right click here on the C drive, or you can also right click up here, right? Same thing, go to properties. And it tells you the free space that it has. So free space is like in your room and you have a bunch of things in it, but it's not filling up the room, right? You still have room to walk around to add more furniture. So that's free space. Free space is different than unallocated. Unallocated or empty space that's not allocated for anything yet. Where free space is space inside the partition that can be used for files, right? Two different things. And so it shows you the free space and the use space. And then there's a disk cleanup option. So what we're gonna do is we answer the free space. So type out your answer in here, and we're gonna do a cleanup. So this cleanup, I recommend that you do that occasionally on your Windows PC. It just remove like files that you don't use. So we can delete internet files that was temporarily saved. If you scroll down, you can have it automatically delete the recycle bin so you don't have to empty it. So things that go into recycle bin goes into slack space. So slack space is space that used to be used for something, but now available. We talked about that before. And then we're going to click OK, and we're going to delete the files. Okay, sometimes students get mixed up between the host computer, which is the outside computer out here, and the virtual machine because they're both the same version. And then click OK, right? So I am now cleaning up my disk. Okay.
I've had a quick question. I'm
Sure.
sorry. So with the Ubuntu, if you use will it be like a virtual machine pretty much with Linux?
You can make virtual machine. You just need to download the ISL, same process.
Okay, for sure.
Except for Windows have that extra step. Ubuntu just follow the wizard. You're gonna have the language, the region similar, and then so Ubuntu, you don't have to if you make a partition, it and select that partition, it automatically write the file system for you. You don't have to select the format, so it needs like a boot, and I think it needs an EFS, an EX4. And so there's like 4 different type of file system that goes into it.
Help me too. Yeah.
But if you just click install, it's gonna do that automatically.
okay.
It's gonna take up the whole entire drive, just like how Windows does.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. But if you really want to learn how to configure Ubuntu, you can read their stuff online, and it talks about like which it tells you which file, what partition to make. I think you need to make like 3 or 4 partition, and each partition like has specific, it's related to specific file system. But that's really good to teach you how to do Linux correctly.
Yeah. I want to learn it.
Yeah, but the easy way is just auto install. Yeah.
I'll try the hard way first.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just read the information.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate
See you tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Okay, so we're gonna make a drive for 20 gig for our data. So right click the unallocated space, new simple volume. Now we're gonna make a room. Go next. Clear this out and type in 20,000. And then go next. Now here is where you can set any letter you want. Default to the next letter, right? A is for floppy, B is for the second floppy, C is for your OS, and D is it's already used that for your DVD, virtual DVD. So it's gonna default to E, but we don't want E. I by practice like to use the later letter because I might need to add more drives locally in the computer. So shared drive, network drives, I tend to use the later letter. So we're going to use Z. You can just pick any letter you want there. Now we're going to tie the folder to the drive so it automatically save it to that space. It's kind of like saying, if you have bed sheets, then put it in this room. But if you have clothes and put it in this room, right? So we have dedicated room for dedicated things. So data is going to go to the Z drive. So we're going to mount it by clicking this and then browse. So which step am I doing? I'm doing step 58. I'm almost done. And then I'm going to expand the C. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go to the users, the account, and we're going to go desktop. and data. So you just need to browse to it. And then click OK. And then go next. Now, this is where you can label your volume. So you can come up with creative names for it. So so you browse to that, right? I'm gonna call data on Z just because for you guys it's easy to see, but depending on the admin. So whatever you want, sometimes it's like, maybe finance for finance data or whatever they want there. So we're gonna call this data on Z. And then go next and finish. And that's how you mount and create the drive at the same time. Okay. I taught Microsoft administration class in other schools, and typically this is in the Microsoft class. Yes.
Just click no.
Yeah, click no in the plan. Okay. Yeah. So you are already, are we not following the steps? All right. So we are at 44. And then you can skip 45 and 46 and go to 47. Yeah. All right. So I made a volume, right? I tied a folder to that so you can throw data into that folder. So how do I make a screenshot now that I did it? Okay. You can press print screen. And basically it does a copy. You can go into your document, right click and click the paper clip. Not the clipboard. Didn't do very good. Yeah, print screen buttons is always suspicious to me. So I'm going to do a snip. So use the snipping tool, search for snip on the outside computer. Okay. And then I'm going to, so it shows up as a little scissor right here. Click it. I'm going to make a new, and then I can drag it. But you can also do print screen and paste if it works for you. So once I snip it, I can paste it into Microsoft Word or my lap document. And there you go. That's how you screenshot in Windows. Now, let me try print screen again. We can do Alt print screen and see if that works. So press Alt and print screen. Print screen is like next to your F2 key, or F12, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it does work. So Alt print screen together, take screenshot, and then you need to paste it into the document. So right click, paste, or Control V. We should know this from other class already, yeah? Like CIS-824A. So Alt P and print screen is next to F12.
Okay, so I just got this down here, and then I put it on default container.
Yeah.
And I click next, right?
Yes.
Then I click
Finish. Yeah, and then you're at like
I'll
60
go in and take a
something.
picture.
Yeah, like 60 or something like that. All right. Now we're gonna right click on the Z drive, or you can go data on Z, right click on the Z drive. You can look at the property. Oh, I'm clicking on the picture. See that? All right, right click on the Z drive, right? You can go to properties. And here you can see, right, that's your drive that's tied to your folder called data. And you can look at your file system. So it's gonna default to NTFS because we default to NTFS in the install, right? That's what Microsoft wants us to use. So it's gonna be new technology file system. And as you can see, it has a security tab where if you use FAT, doesn't have that. This tab right here, where it says security, if you format your drive as an FAT32 or 64 exFAT, it will not give you this security tab for permission. So I can control who can have access to my drive or my folder, my file, subsequently. Okay.
Somebody install this on personal computer remotely.
if you allow them to.
But, oh, didn't know.
Yeah, so Windows use RDP, remote desktop. And then you would say which computer, and you can also allow it for a certain amount of time. Yeah. So what if you don't allow the connection? Well, if they're logging as administrator, they can make a connection at any time. So anyway, so when you look at the property of your Z drive, right, you should see, like we talked about, free space compared to use space, which answer the question. So type out your answer here, right? What's the file system? And then what we're going to do is we're going to try to use the tools. So go to tools. So the original defragmenter in Windows, so because remember, files are scattered across your house. So the optimizing is where you put all your files together. It's kind of like I want my files to be in the sequential addresses of my storage so that way it doesn't take a long time to look for it. So we can click optimize. And we can select the drive that we want. Typically, I start with C, but it tells you right here the status, okay, right? So once in a while, it's good to optimize your system. So you can click analyze for it to assess it. And it tells me there's like 3% fragmented, which is very little because I have nothing on this virtual machine, right? Nothing on this computer. And then you can click optimize. But if you have a lot of files, it's good practice to kind of go in and optimize your drive, your C drive or your data drive once in a while. It just make your system run a little bit better and more efficient. So now I want it to be zero fragmented, right? It's less scattered is better. And so once I'm done, I wanted to take a screenshot of that, or we know that originally I had like 3%. And then after I optimize, I have zero fragmentation. And then I would screenshot. So you can use a snipping tool to clip a new snip, or you can press, right, Alt print screen. So click on the window first that you want to screenshot. Press Alt and print screen together, and print screen is next to F12. And then go to your Word document and do a paste. So here at the end, Control V to paste. Oh, it took this old screenshot. So sometimes you have to like, do it multiple times or snip. Let's try it again. I'm just going to snip if it doesn't work. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to check the status for C. Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? How many partitions are primary? So coming back to, so I'm going to close this. Here's my disk management console again, right? For my C drive, if you look at the status, you can pull it to the right to see the whole thing. It is healthy. It is a boot section partition. It's a boot volume. It has crash dump, page file, and so on. Okay. And then answer that question. And then how many partitions are primary? You can look at the information. Which one are primary? I have 3 or 4 actually. And then which one is active? Your C should be the only active one. Okay. All right. Let me take attendance. I think some of them are leaving already, but let me stop.
So for the